Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going back to the previous post, the news post in GW2, and touching base on one very important, very spicy, very juicy image. The image is of course of the shadowed and secret elite specialization image that they shared with us. I'm pretty I'm like 100% confident that this is an elite specialization. I've seen some people say that this is a character reveal. They have never done this before, where they have hidden a character that we do not already know. Considering they've showed us concept art of a woman in the End of Dragons concept art, who we have supposedly never seen before. So it's not in their wheelhouse to hide characters per se. It's more so in their wheelhouse to hide elite specialization reveals, similar to what they did back in the day with the professions. They would actually hide the profession art, and you would kind of have to guess what it was about and what it was. So today I wanted to go over, talk about it, dissect a couple things that we can see and that they have here, and yeah, this is all purely speculation. We will see more and probably find out on the 27th. But for the sake of content and for the sake of just speculation, let's jump right in. So everyone, we have this particular image that was graciously provided to us. Now, I myself, along with pretty much everyone else in the community, instantly gravitated towards Mesmer. And I'm going to talk about Mesmer, of course, after what I'm just going to say. However, I wanted to point out that it has not been confirmed that this is Mesmer. And while the color palette does lean towards Mesmer, I didn't want to completely rule out another possibility, this being Elementalist. Now, it is slightly pinkish, slightly red. However, when you look back at the Elite Specialization concept art, particularly for Mesmer's, they typically rely on more darker purples, gray purples, which might be seen around the body. However, of course, we have the giant arrow, spearheads, daggers, whatever you may call them, floating above. And those tend to look a little bit reddish, pinkish. And we have seen Elementalist concept arts where this hue is present at times. So this could be an Elementalist. Another key factor that kind of points me in that direction if you're taking this under the guise of Elementalist, is that this is perhaps an arcane Elementalist elite spec. There are 5 arrows. Perhaps we're getting an F5 for the Elementalist. Maybe. And in terms of the weapon that they would use, the weapon in question has already created a lot of buzz. And there's typically 3 answers kind of going around. This being the dagger, a spear, or a short bow. Now for Elementalists, they already can use a dagger, so that really wouldn't be a weapon. Spear, they could be using, as they don't actually have access to even an underwater spear, and nor do they have access to a short bow. So in that instance, that's what a possibility for Elementalists could be. However, of course, I want to just obviously say that I personally am leaning a little bit more towards Mesmer, along with the community. It would be fitting, considering that Heart of Thorns, the very first elite specialization to be shown, was the Mesmer. But of course, we have the argument that the very first profession to be shown in Guild Wars 2 was the Elementalist. So, with that being said, that's what I have to say about the possible Elementalist. Now let's tackle the Mesmer. In the same line of the weapon accessibility, I saw some people say sword. However, we have to understand that Mesmer already has access to dual-wielding swords. I saw, of course, in line with the 3 other weapon speculations, is the dagger, the spear, and the short bow. All 3 weapons Mesmer cannot use. They can use the spear underwater, however, but not above land. So in terms of the dagger, I can see where people are saying dagger, but part of me doesn't necessarily want a dagger. Now, of course, they could make the dagger more of a mid to long range weapon, which I think would be really cool. Mesmer has been in the department of making classical melee weapons into ranged weapons, a la the Great Sword. And it would work in terms of a dagger. But I will say they've already had a main hand weapon with the axe for Mirage, and they've had an offhand weapon with the shield for the Chronomancer. And I tend to see a trend in elite specializations where they kind of try to hit each weapon category. And if they did offhand in Heart of Thorns, they try to do a main hand or a double hander or two-hander for the next elite spec. So that brings me to the next weapon type, and one that I would personally love to see on Mesmer. Mesmer has never had a two-handed weapon, and considering what the shape of it, how long it is, and the potential for the actual back end to be extended behind the silhouette, that leads me to spear. And I would be very interested to see a spear-wielding Mesmer above land. And the spear could still be a long-range weapon. Of course, we have these arrows above the silhouette, which indicates some form of possible long-ranged attack. And I think it'd just be really cool. And if we actually go into the art style and examine it, there's many things that could be going on here. First and foremost, we could have the silhouette be holding the dagger in front of them. But because it's silhouetted, we can't really see where everything is particularly placed. So this could be a dagger being wielded, in its dagger style. Some people have said sword, which is why, because it looked like the blade was pointing down. But to me, it looks like the weapon is in fact behind the silhouette's back. And it does seem to extend. Now that extension could stop right there, and that would still be a dagger. However, if you look above what would be our right, the silhouette's left shoulder, there is this weird shaded bulb that extends, and I'm pretty sure that is not the finger, because we can actually kind of count the fingers on this character. We have the pinky, the ring finger, the middle finger, and what seems to be the pointed index finger. And the thumb, I would imagine, would be kind of pointed down like this. It would be weird for the thumb to be kind of up here. That could still be it, but it's so rounded that it doesn't necessarily look like a thumb. To me, it could be the base of the spear, where the spear would kind of stand up on. So that is my long-winded explanation of how I could see a spear. Of course, also, the blade of it is so long and pointed, and there is this middle connecting part. And it could just be a very decorative, ornate dagger. Probably one of the bigger daggers that we've ever seen in game. But part of me would love to see Mesmer get a two-handed weapon, as they haven't had a two-handed weapon yet for their elite specialization weapon, and an above-ground spear would just be wonderful. No class has had an above-ground spear yet, and we've seen a lot of them, especially with the Sun Spears. We've seen the Seraph have been using above-ground spears. We see them all the time in the concept art. We just have not been able to play with them ourselves. Another thing people have been saying is the short bow. I have seen a couple things on short bow, and to be honest, I think short bow is probably one of the surprisingly lesser likely options on this list. If it's not a spear, I would probably say it's most definitely a dagger. But in terms of a short bow, it does look like a blade. It looks very angular, and I know we've seen angular shapes and angular short bows, particularly with the Revenant. However, with the Mesmer, they tend to be a bit softer, tend to be a bit more elegant, and I think this style, especially with the spikes and all that stuff, really wouldn't scream Mesmer short bow to me, personally. That's why I tend to stick more with spear or dagger. So that is the weapon speculation. Of course, we have these 5 dagger or spear heads floating above them. I would like to see this be a ranged elite specialization, considering the last 2 have been very melee oriented. Of course, we have axe and shield. And I've seen a lot of people say dagger in terms of being more of a Mesmery assassin, but I think that would be kind of stepping on the Mirage's toes, particularly with the axe. We already have a lot of teleporting and displacement going on with the axe, and it kind of fills that niche. Now, of course, with the Mesmer elite specializations, in my opinion, the one niche that it hasn't filled yet would probably be healing, direct healing. We have boon support on Chronomancers, and we have condition damage on Mirages, and sometimes power damage on Chronomancer and Mirage. So one could argue that the one thing that we don't really have for Mesmer is a bruiser or a direct healing elite specialization. And I guess one would argue we haven't had another flat damage oriented Mesmer Elite spec. So yeah, I think that was all I really had to say about this particular teaser. We really haven't had much to go off of other than the weapon and what looks to be some sort of spell going on. And finally, I would love to say, and I really hope that they continue to kind of tease out these silhouetted and shaded images. It would be very reminiscent of leading up to Guild Wars 2's launch, where they would every so often, show the shadowed and shaded out profession character art. And I think it'd be really cool, considering that the 27th is almost here. They're going to be showing, I assume, almost all of the elite specializations during the live stream. So I would love that we get these little teasers. They don't give us all of the information, but I think it'd be really great to drum up and kind of conjure up some more hype, because they give us just enough of a taste for us to kind of go crazy on the Reddit and start speculating and talking about things. What's missing in the class, what we would like to see. Of course, let's not maybe, bloat and power creep the game as much as Path of Fire did. I just like to point that out as a statement. But yeah, I think these would be great media pieces. And considering the live stream is so close, they could really do 2 or 3 a week and then drop the live stream, and then they all are revealed, and it's this grand experience. But there's been no confirmation that they are doing that, but it's just a marketing idea that I think I would have gone for, and I would like to see more of. So with that, everyone, that was my little speculation video on this concept / teaser art that we have for either Mesmer or Elementalist, but I'm kind of leaning a bit more towards Mesmer. So everyone, I would love to hear your comments down below. What do you think about this particular teaser? What would you like to see in a Mesmer Elite specialization? And I will catch you guys in the next video. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, a link down below. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all that stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.